Broadcasting live from Syracuse, New York, it's the PS&Ed Show. Addressing topics of public safety, education, and much more.
Behind the scenes takes, right? Oh. And it's the PS&Ed Show with my good friend Rob.
How are you doing, guys?
So we're here to talk about first aid and wilderness survival, that kind of mindset where you're going to be doing tourniquets and quick clot and pressure dressings and splints and
all kinds of fun stuff.
So I'm going to let Rob talk because he knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. Because why don't you go through your history background, what kind of experience you have, just to show the listeners that you know what you're talking about.
I've got a first aid card and a library card, and that covers everything.
Nice.
I've been a paramedic for almost 15 years now, working primarily out of the Syracuse area. I've worked in some of the outer townships. I've worked in Long Island, all across New York State. I did a little bit of work with the Air Force Auxiliary. I worked as a medic on ground teams doing search and rescue. So a very broad spectrum aspects, especially in the first aid realm.
Very cool. Very cool. And before I forget, because you know I will, because I've got that squirrel brain mentality, as you can see our beautiful guard all safes that we have here. We have them in the store. Come on down, check them out. Got some great prices on guard all safes. And I made a slogan for them, and they love it. Say, got guns? Let us guard all them. Anyway, so what are we going to talk about? What do we got? What are we going to hit first?
First thing is mindset going out. It's the same as the survival mindset, which best idea with having a gun is to bring one with you. If you don't have one with you, you can't have that ability to help yourself.
Yeah, that's the whole mindset of if rather have it, not need it, than need to not have it. 2 is 1, 1 is none kind of thought process.
Correct. So having something to begin with is the first thing. Once you decide you're going to carry something, what are we going to carry? Where are you going to be at? What type of risks might you have? At any moment, at any time, something could happen. You might be walking down the street and a bomb can go off. So what do you want to have on you? Just Band-Aids?
And I think that's a thing people don't really think about as much as anything could happen at any time. You can be walking on the street, like Rob said. I mean, the pressure cooker in Boston Marathon, right? And you have pressure cooker go off and you're running a marathon. I mean, are you going to be carrying a tourniquet with you when you're running a marathon? Probably not, but there's definitely medical professionals in the area. But knowing how to use a tourniquet versus just maybe a belt, it could be definitely life-saving.
Which we'll talk about both. And if you don't have a tourniquet for whatever reason, you have the ability to use a belt or other items, which we'll talk about that as well. But the big one nowadays people are talking about is tourniquets. We got a couple right here. And for years, they said tourniquets are the thing, tourniquets are what we use. And then pre-hospital, on the ambulance, they said, wait a minute, tourniquets are causing muscle damage. We stopped using them for about 10 years. They said, nope, it's a horrible thing. And then around 2005, give or take a couple years, the military said, hey, we're losing a lot of people from blood loss. How can we stop blood loss? And they came out with tourniquets, and more industrialized. They always had a way of making their own, and they came out with the CAT tourniquet, Combat Application Tourniquet, which almost all commercial tourniquets nowadays are the same. You have your band, which usually about 1.5 inches wide, a windlass strap, windlass clip, and again, each brand has their own special quirks and nomenclature for them. But ultimately what we're doing is applying your extremity above the location of the injury.
And what's your thoughts as far as, because I've also heard, and I want to get your take on it, if you have clothing on, you don't know where that injury is it better to go as high as possible?
The idea and mindset for high as possible was they want to be as far away from it, which I don't know why. You want to be as close as you can to it if you know what caused it. If I have a laceration from a knife or something industrial where I know what caused it.
You see where that
Yep, okay, there it is. It's 2 to 3 inches above it. However, if I have something like a gunshot wound, that bullet enters, I don't know where that bullet went. So that bullet could have gone in the arm. And anybody who's actually dealt with a gunshot wound victim knows those bullets can travel a ways up. So I could have gone in my wrist, and it could have gone all the way up in my shoulder and my chest. So when you have something like a gunshot wound or something with shrapnel where you have a penetrating object, we're not sure where it's at, you want to have farther up so that we've got more protection. But ordinarily, when you apply a tourniquet, 2 to 3 inches above where the injury site is.
If you know where the injury site is.
Correct. Which again, you're going to know where some injury site is of some kind. You're going to see where the blood's coming out of. Something else that people are rushing to use the tourniquets, which it's a good thing that we have that mindset nowadays where we're using them, but they're using them times they really don't need to. Is if I've got just a regular cut, I can put
Direct
direct pressure and bleeding control on it. Tourniquets are supposed to be used for arterial bleeds, which there's really 3 types of bleeds to talk about, which is the arterial, which is going to be bright red. It's going to be squirting blood inches away from the body like a pump, because what's happening is your heart is pumping and your arteries are squeezing with it, and they're shooting the blood, and you're going to see it jumping out. Go on to YouTube, strong stomach, and you're going to look up arterial bleeds, and you're going to see that blood squirting out. That's what you're going to be looking for when we use tourniquets. Other types of bleeding is venous bleeding as well as capillary bleeding. Venous is going to be a darker blood, but a consistent oozing out. I'm not as concerned with that. Direct pressure can handle that. Capillaries, if I take a knife just along the back of my hand and I were to cut it, and I have a little bit of blood come out, that red that you see, which is bright red, however, it's not that spurting copious amounts of blood. That's not going to kill me. A little bit of Band-Aid if it's a large cut should be able to control that. The arterial bleeding, if we don't control that in a very rapid time period, 90 seconds, people are going to bleed out. The body only has so much blood.
Right.
You have about 5.5 liters, 6 is we just say for average,
Yeah.
and once I lose that, I've got nothing else.
There's a video that we show in our ARC 35 class where somebody gets cut in the leg. It's from ASP, Active Self-Protection. They get cut in the leg, and nobody has tourniquet. Nobody comes to the guy's safety, and he's just sitting there. Nobody comes to his help, and he's just sitting there on the floor, and then all you just see is him slump right over. So. You got to know how to use tourniquet, but then you also have to be right with your maker.
Absolutely.
You don't know if you're coming home that night.
Absolutely. I encourage everyone to go out, take some kind of first aid course. If you, for whatever reason, can't find the time, which is only 4 hours, we can come to the PS&Ed website, find our first aid class, we offer it. If you can't do that, they have a free public program called Stop the Bleed, which is becoming this big push across the nation, which is teaching you 1 to 2 hours how to control bleeding. Part of it's tourniquets, part of it's actually packing the wound with gauze or quick clot, which we'll talk about in a minute. But for the first hour of that, it's just simply the tourniquet. And so I'm taking the tourniquet. Now, you can apply it on yourself. When you have it stored, usually it's folded up over. And there's different brands. I'm not going to push any specific brand. I do want to do a video at a later date talking about different brands and testing them out, because there are certain ones that work better than other ones. But you're also looking at size versus carrying it every day.
We also have up on our website, so just you can go to the PS&Ed store, online store. You can pick different survival items, which we'll put a link in the description.
So I unfold it from where it's at. I've got a hole. I slide it right over where my body's at. We'll say that I'm cut right here. I know it cut me. I'm 2 inches above my sight. I tighten it down as much as I can, and that Velcro is going to stay right in place. Once I'm here, I can take my windlass, and I'm going to turn it around. It should take about 2 to 3 full completions. And how am I going to know that I've actually controlled the bleeding?
Bleeding ceases or slows?
Bleeding stops.
Yep.
Okay, the problem with this is if it happens to you or somebody else, it's going to hurt. This is very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I'm trying right here just to get it inside.
You're truly pushing the muscle down on top of that vein to try to get the bleeding, the blood from flowing.
We'll say my blood stopped. I put the clip in. Here's a very important thing. Document our time. What happens was, the reason the civilian world and the military kind of took a step back 15 years ago, 20 years ago with tourniquets was we were causing so much muscle damage. We were saying use tourniquets, and people were leaving these tourniquets on and they were losing their muscle, and they were losing arms and legs for no reason. And so we thought, okay, it's better to not do that, and then we realized all these people were dying. So right now, the max time usually for a tourniquet application is 2 hours. From the time you put that tourniquet on, you have about 2 hours for them to get to a hospital, for them to have start some control, to do surgical interventions, try and fix the problem. You never want to loosen up. Years ago in the 90s, top first aid class, they'd say every so often you want to loosen up, let that blood flow. The problem is when you were a kid, you get a bloody nose, you cover your nose, your mom says, let me see it, take it off,
Right.
starts bleeding again.
Or you pick a scab. Or
Pick a scab. All those clots that started building up to stop the bleeding, you take them off, rip them all off. What's happening is you put this tourniquet on, you're starting to clot up, you open it back up, you're taking all those clots and blowing them right back into the person's body, or they're shooting back out. So those clots could be traveling to the person's heart, cause a heart attack, go to the brain, cause a stroke, go to the lungs, cause a pulmonary embolism. So there's a lot more risk with that. Leave that tourniquet on. Once you've locked it in, you document that time right up top, and there you go. Carry your marker with it. Once it's on, stays on, the person's going to be in a lot of discomfort. They're going to be begging you to take it off. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. Never take it off. Do your best to comfort them. Tell them, hey, people coming here. Once the ambulance gets there, they're going to have some options for pain medicines to help this person to try and control that pain. But we never want to take it off. It's better for them to be alive in pain than dead without the pain. If you don't have a tourniquet available, you have other options. You go out into the woods, something happens, I got stabbed, fight over here. Bad dog. Bad dog.
Good dog. Ow.
So here I have a regular belt. Nylon belts from Proper.
Yep, it's proper.
Okay? Anything, almost anything, we can make some of a tourniquet out of. However, you don't want to have something too thin. I'm a big proponent of using paracord for everything. However, I don't want to use paracord for a tourniquet. It's too thin. It actually could cause more
I
damage.
hear people say shoelaces. I got shoelaces.
Shoelace isn't going to cut it. You want something thick. A belt is probably your best option. You want at least an inch thick, if not more. And so we take this belt, we apply it where we have to. We have to loosen it down. Get it where I have to go. Once I have it in, I want something that's going to be long and straight that I can fit in here, and I can make my windlass. Now this stick I don't think is going to actually be thick enough. We just grab it from the outside as a quick add-me on. We actually want to twist it. Oh, maybe it's going to hold. And that 2 to 3 times around, I'm going to keep doing this until it stops. Once the bleeding stops, now I'm going to tie this off and hold it in place.
So the big thing with this too that I see is, there's gaps in here. So that's one of the things I'm not a big proponent. I've got a tourniquet. Everybody knows the tourniquet right here in this pocket. That's for me. So if somebody has a tourniquet on them, that's their tourniquet. If they have a belt, could it work? Yeah, but we go into the effective versus efficient. Okay, is it effective? Yeah, it's effective. Is it efficient? No. The most efficient thing to use is a tourniquet, something that's made to stop the bleeding. So shoelaces, parachute cord, belts, ties, could they work? They could work. But will a tourniquet work? Yeah, almost guaranteed to work.
There was a study done, I can't tell you which hospital organization did it, but they took a group of EMTs that were seasoned, well-trained, knew their job very well, and a group of brand new EMTs. And in that group of seasoned EMTs, they gave them all makeshift stuff to make tourniquets out of. They used cravats, which we actually have over here also. They used belts, just makeshift stuff that you can make it out of, but it's not intended for. And then the group of brand new EMTs, they gave them all commercialized tourniquets. They had a much greater success rate in stopping the bleeding with the brand new EMTs who were fresh out of school because they had the industrialized commercial tourniquets versus the guys that had the experience but didn't have the right tools. When you go out in the field, you want to have the right tools to carry what you need.
Very true. Very true. All right.
Same concept with the cravat. Taking the cravat out of here. This was actually Pat's we stole from him.
Do it up.
And I'm pretty sure this was from the Korean War.
Bad dog, bad.
Yeah. We can actually use this for the my packing lecture in a minute. We open it up, and it's still going to work. Now this is interesting. Okay, so this is like the original Israeli trauma band dressing. I've got the roller gauze on both sides, and I got some nice thick gauze right in the middle here. I can take that gauze, apply it right to my injury site. I can tie this off, and then once I've tied this off, I can put my stick or my
Windlass.
thank you, and start twisting it until it stops.
Or until it breaks.
Or until it breaks, which again, if it comes to the point where it breaks, we're going to have more problems on top of this.
But better than nothing.
Absolutely.
Then again, a tourniquet.
It would have been a lot better if I brought the tourniquet with me.
Exactly.
What else do we got here? A couple other things I want you to keep in mind with the tourniquet is anyone who's taken a CPR first aid course, they always taught them ABCs, and then recently they just changed it for CAB, circulation and breathing. With the tourniquet, their acronym is ABC. First off is when you have an incident involving someone with a major bleed, you want to control it, First things first is alert. A is for alert. I want to call for help because I can help them all I want. If I don't tell somebody else to say, hey, come help me or call 911, then nobody's coming. You'll be there for a long time. Secondly is B, bleeding location. I want to find out where that bleeding is coming from. Where is this injury site? If I see them, there's blood pouring out, cut the clothes off, tear it off, figure out where your actual injury site is. Once I've located the injury site, we're going to jump down to C, is control the bleeding. Anybody who's ever taken an EMT class, first aid class, they always taught them BSI, scene safe. BSI is body substance isolation. Put my gloves on. I want it to protect myself. I have no idea what he has. Well, I do, and I don't want it. Put my gloves on, protect myself. Okay? Now I approach. Nothing else is going to hurt me, which we'll talk about more of that in a minute. And then I want to control my bleeding. First things first is direct pressure. Put my hands over the injury site. Even if I don't have a tourniquet right there at that moment, I have something. Me putting my hand over is something to start with. And if I have to, I'll go to a shirt or something clothing to hold it, a makeshift bandage. Now I've got that. Now I have my bleeding kit that a lot of places nowadays, airports, schools, public buildings, have stop the bleeding kits. Have somebody who will get that. Now I've got gauze coming. Now I've got tourniquets coming. And I can progress. Put that direct pressure. Once your hands go on them, we don't want them coming off. Hold that in place until we can get a tourniquet in place. What do you got there?
Nothing.
I don't believe you. See, there's the gloves. There's the gloves. Michael Jackson with his one glove. Once your bleeding is controlled, we're good. We got help coming. What if it doesn't stop the bleeding? What if I put my tourniquet on and it's still bleeding through after I've swung it around 5 times?
More bandages?
Put more bandages, or if I have another tourniquet, put a second tourniquet on. Okay? Just keep adding on. We don't want to take stuff off. We can always add more on. The more pressure I get, eventually it's going to stop. So we talked about the scene safety aspect of this.
Right.
So we have an incident. We have that pressure cooker. We have an active killer. No, so I didn't say active shooters. We know how he is.
I'm training them well.
I've learned. So we have this incident, and there's still somebody out there that could be doing harm to us. What do I want to take care of first? Do I want to deal with the threat, or do I want to try and help this person? Because what's going to happen if I try and help this person, and then that threat comes and injures me, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So first things first, that scene safety. I want to make sure that I've taken care of that issue, no matter what it is. If it's active killer, then we can neutralize the threat. If it was bombing, make sure that nothing else nearby that's going to hurt us, or move that person if we have to. We want to avoid moving them, but if they're in immediate danger, you do what you have to do. Once we've taken care of that threat, now we can get into those issues involving taking care of that person. What happens if this injury is not a place where I can put a tourniquet? What if it happens in one of my joints? I'll say up here in my shoulder or my groin, and there's nothing above that where I can put a tourniquet to control it. What do we do now?
Quick clot.
Quick clot, or even just regular gauze and packing, which I'm going to steal pads. Could we get more bandage? Quick clot got a bad rep when it first came out, but there we go. Is our quick clot
From Korean War.
This is not quite the Korean War, but it's still within good. It expires in 2020. But you can tell it's been used because the man's been carrying it in his pocket every day. It's all crinkled up, but it's still good. Quick clot got a bad name when it first came out because the protein and stuff they were using were actually causing chemical burns. And then there was some concerns about later models, the proteins causing allergic reactions. But most of the stuff with the modern quick clot is alleviate all that problem. There's no more chemical burns. There's a lot less chance of an allergic reaction because they're using different components. But what happens is this is a really fancy gauze that once you apply it, it causes the blood to actually coagulate faster and control that bleeding. So what will happen is, I'm not going to open his, he still needs it. We'll use the regular one. As I open it up, and it comes out like a regular gauze. And I've got one of these in, and you can use that on any laceration if you need to. But specifically I have in mind is these in-between wounds. So I take our quick clot, we unroll it, we've got our penetrating hole. We also want to make sure that there's no exit wound, because I can pack the first wound if it's a shooting, and then it's going to pour out the other side. We have to pack both sides. So wherever your hole is, take your gauze, and we actually want to force it into the hole.
Oh, I was gonna.
There you go. We got
Bigger hole?
I'm gonna do my own hole. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't want to
Try to help.
So take mine. Here's our entry wound, and I actually want to pack it. Okay. A lot of times you see people, they have that wound, and there's that direct pressure, which direct pressure is great. The problem is the bleeding is happening on the inside. So all it's doing is pulling the blood up on the inside. There's still that bleeding. And so even if you're covering that hole up, the blood's building up and the person's bleeding out into their body cavity. So we want to take that quick clot and we want to shove it in. And we want to pack it as far as we can. Get as much in there. Avoid using the sticks if we can. Your hand, it's going to feel awkward. You're taking your fingers and you're shoving them into a hole on somebody else. But this is what's going to save your life. We don't want to put it right on top. We actually want to get it on the inside. And then once it's on the inside, they also have newer ones nowadays, which is actually like sponges. And once it goes inside, it expands and just takes up the whole body cavity area. But that we're thinking a lot more with this for those shoulders and like the joints between. Not those joints in the elbows. I can still put a tourniquet higher than that, where I can't get a tourniquet any higher than.
Right. So tourniquets for extremities.
Yep.
And then quick clot will be.
Quick clot is for these shoulder areas or groin or these joints where I couldn't get a tourniquet any higher than. Now, if we got something on our abdominal or chest region, also we don't want to put tourniquets on necks. You got to put that disclaimer on right now, because if I don't say it, someone's going to try and do it. So, no direct pressure on these body cavity areas where I've got my chest and abdomen. We're still going to use the same idea with this if we can. However, if I've got my chest and I've got air coming out of it, what are we indicating? What's going on here?
There's a sucking wound.
A sucking wound. Something's going out the lungs. There's air coming out someplace that's not supposed to come out.
Yeah.
So what can we do to try and prevent that and slow it down?
Chest seals.
Chest seals, which I believe we also saw on the website.
We do.
We do. And so this is basically comes out to be a very fancy piece of saran wrap. Well, a little bit thicker, but it's going to have that plastic. If I put a piece of gauze over that sucking chest wound, gauze is cotton, air is going to pass right through it.
Yeah. Well, it gets saturated and then.
Correct. But even the air comes the hemopneumothorax, so blood and air both passing out. With this chest seal, puts it over it, it's a plastic. Air's not going to be coming through. So that's going to hold it in place. However, with that in place, it's a temporary fix. If it's abdominal, we're still going to use the packing. If there's air coming out of it for whatever reason, we can use this. But the bigger concern is my joints, I can pretty much control the bleeding. My extremities, I can control the bleeding. If it's happening on my chest or abdominal region, I can't control the bleeding. The bleeding's on the inside. What's going to save this person is a fast ride to the hospital, which goes back to our first thing of the A, alert. Get somebody coming there quick. Get the ambulance coming, get the paramedics, let them do their job, we'll get them to a trauma center, let the doctors do their thing. Because at that point, nothing that we're going to do in the field is going to be able to help them. They need a surgical intervention.
Some of the things that I've talked about in the past is like MacGyverizing it, using the MacGyver techniques and stuff. If you didn't have a chest seal, because not a lot of people carry that stuff, what kind of things can we improvise with?
Anything that's not going to pass air through it, and it's moldable. So a lot of plastics, I said saran wrap jokingly, but that plastic could stop it.
Right. Now you could get tired if you did something like that.
Correct.
Right? I mean, the gloves on could be something you could do to close that.
You could use the gloves.
But now you're stuck there.
Correct. You can try and wrap the glove over it, but there's a chance of it still moving. So it's going to have some sucking motion to it. Once you're on, hold on for dear life. There are options for trying to hold it in, either taping on. I've seen people use tape and actually tape plastic on. But if they're bleeding, that might come off very difficult. Right. So in a pinch, you use what you can.
Right.
It's, again, MacGyverized. We do what we can with what we got, which if you have the right tools, makes your job a lot easier.
That's why I carry chest seals.
There you go. If you come out to one of our first aid classes, we'll cover all this stuff. We'll also, I'm not going to talk about CPR on here because I can get into a whole 8 hours on that.
Right. CPR, AED, we do that. We have those classes. We can do them for public, businesses. Anything we missed, Pat?
If I was just an ordinary person and I planned to go on a little trip to the wilderness and I didn't want to carry a whole mess of stuff, where could I find just a little handy first aid kit that does the USCCA make something like that, or is there any companies that we can?
The USCCA has a kit that instructors will get on level 2 of the DSF. So level 2 of the Defense Shooting Fundamentals, once you become an instructor, then you get the little range kit. We have them up on the website. Check that out. Go to our website, ps&ed.com, and then go to the store that way. And we'll actually put a link like we did in other videos. You can put a link in the description.
I've got one more thing that I forgot to mention. With the tourniquets, use caution on where you're buying them from. Okay? Come to our website or go to a reputable dealer and buy them. I recently went to a training for an organization that they thought they were getting a deal because they got a bunch of tourniquets, which cost about $8 a pop. Well, $8 for a tourniquet is very difficult to find,
It's cheap.
especially if you actually for a cat one. What the issue is they're making counterfeit tourniquets in like China, and they're shipping them here, and people say, "Oh, I see a tourniquet, that's good." Once I looked at the tourniquets, they bought 100 of these things, and then we realized these are all counterfeit, and you just wasted all that money. Okay, and I don't want to risk my life with this, because if you look it up online, you can find that people have gone to use these things and they're failing, and this is not the time I want to have my equipment fail. If you're going to do it, spend the extra money, do it right.
All right, so that's all we got for today. We're going to talk about our sponsors real quick. So Lee Armory. Ooh, I like that sound. Whoa. So we've got our new AK-47 Sporter, our Lee Armory. Sporter Hunter AK-47, New York compliant, on our website now. You can get it in Russian red, like this beauty. You can get it in brown, Lee Armory brown, or green. And I forgot what the cool name was for the green. It was like Mean Machine Green or something is what they call it. But that is one of our sponsors, Lee Armory, so definitely check those out on the website, as well as PowerTech flashlights. Never leave home without it. Okay, and then obviously guard all safes. Got guns? Let us guard all them. Love that. So make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment, do all that good stuff. Make sure you click that little bell, ding-a-ling-ling thing there so that you get, oh, he's still clicking over there.
He's playing with it.
Yeah, he is. We're going to have to go do some shooting. So thanks for watching the PS&Ed show. Make sure you check out the next one. The next one we're going to be probably doing food. We might be doing water. Wait, we already did food. We'll be doing water. We'll be doing one of the other ones, shelter. So we got a couple more shows left, and navigation as well. So make sure you check out the PS&Ed show to check out the other fun stuff we have going on in our survival series. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate you coming.
Always a pleasure.
I always feel like Barney, and we'll see you next time.